The main addition made for the version 2.0 of Scene Manager Toolkit is the ability to group scenes together and to refer to those groups in the inspector. But before we take a look into this, let's revise what's already there. One of the core pillars of Scene Manager Toolkit is to provide a toolkit, as the name implies, to simplify scene management, whether this is for the editor or at runtime. The editor window provided by Scene Manager Toolkit automatically lists every scene of the project. This is to simplify management of scenes without having to search for them in the assets folder. Since every scene of the project is listed in the editor window, it facilitates management of those scenes, whether it is in the project or in the hierarchy. So for example, I want to add a scene to my project. I can press the plus button here, and then I can choose a name and an emplacement for that scene. So let's say it's in the assets folder. I add it there, and then it will be listed automatically in the editor window. From there, I can manage the states of that scene, whether it is in the hierarchy or in the project. So let's say I want to ping it, I want to change the folder of that assets. I can do it from the editor window. And let's say I want to add other scenes to the hierarchy. I can open them additively, I can unload them, I can switch scenes also. And of course, since I can add scenes, I can also remove those scenes. There are multiple ways to remove scenes. I can press the minus button here, or I can right click on the selection. It will allow me to manage everything that I want to manage for that scene through that contextual menu. Or I could also press Ctrl and Delete to delete the selection. The same process applies to all that is build settings and addressables. So if we want to add a scene or a selection of scenes to the build settings or to the addressables, we can do so through either the buttons here. So let's say I have the add to build settings on the left here, or enabled state in the build settings on the right, or even the addressable states at the bottom here. Or I could also use the contextual menu as previously shown to add a selection to the build settings or the addressables and so on. Now, if I want to search for a specific scene or scenes in the project, what I can do is search by name at the top here. So let's say I want to search for Scene Manager Toolkit. If I type scene, it will find it for me. What I can do also to find scenes by category is use the tag system. So right now I have 2 tags. Let's say I want to add one more tag just to show the actual window where we can set up tags. So let's say I had tag foo here. And when I search for foo, it will list Scene Manager Toolkit. If I search for marketing, it will list me 3 scenes here, which are all listed with or tagged with marketing. We can also search by scenes that are in the hierarchy. This is also by name. Now, with Scene Manager Toolkit, scenes can also be referenced directly in the inspector. Let's take a look at what we have here in the camera scene. In this object here, we have a variable named SceneAssetReference, which is conveniently the same name as the type of the variable, SceneAssetReference. And this SceneAssetReference, when we refer to a scene, so let's say I refer here to a logo, if that SceneAssetReference has a reference to a scene, it will provide us with all information that is related to that scene. So let's say build index, name, path, addressable ID, all that, it's all there. What it also provides us from an inspector point of view is 3 buttons. The first is one that will either open the Scene Manager Toolkit if the reference is null, or if there is a reference, it will scroll to that reference and select it in the editor window. The other 2 buttons are the same that we can find in the editor window, one for the build settings and one for the addressables. In addition to the ability to reference individual scenes in the inspector, the version 2.0 of Scene Manager Toolkit allows us to group scenes together. So let's go here into the Groups tab. And from that groups tab, let's create a new group. So let's call it video. And for that group, let's add scenes, let's say camera and logo and Ludwell Studio, just for the sake of demonstration. And the scenes that are listed in a group can be managed in the same way that we can manage them in the Scenes tab. The group itself will apply that management in the same way, but to every scene that it contains. So let's say we want to add every scene of the video group to the build settings. All we have to do is press the build settings button of the group and it will add every scene to the build settings. And to use that group in the inspector, what we can do is have a variable of type SceneAssetGroupReference, which is here conveniently named SceneAssetGroupReference. This variable will provide us with a list, and that list can be populated manually, or we can choose to populate it from a group. So let's say here we take video, it will override the list and populate it with the assets from the group. And the other button here on the right is the same as for SceneAssetReference, meaning that it will find the group in the editor window and scroll to it. Okay, so one last thing that I want to mention about groups. If we select the Ludwell Studio scene here, we can press on that button there, which is set in Scene Asset Data Groups. What it allows us to do is either add or remove that scene from one or more than one group. So in this case, I only have one group, so it will only allow me to remove. But if I add more than one group, it would allow me to also add. So in this case, let's say I want to remove it from this video group. I can click on remove for this group and it will remove it from the group.